What do I mean when I talk about consulting for government contracting? Typically, I'm talking about somebody that has a niche area within the government contracting process. So a specialization, whether you learn that um, over time, whether it comes from past experience, and now you're helping other people sell to the government in somehow. And there are a lot of different areas where you can help other companies sell to the government. There's a lot of benefit for this. This is a great area. Obviously, this is the area that I'm in. After I left as a procurement officer from the Air Force, I started a consulting business helping companies sell to the government. Now, some of this can be focused on sales, and that seems to be where companies have, at least in mass, have the most questions that they need help with. So what do they need? Well, companies need, first of all, if they're just starting out, so if you have a company that is new to selling to the government, they have commercial sales. Good morning. How you doing? Get Alex and Vikram. If you have a company new to commercial sales, they need to understand the process. So they might need someone to help them understand how does the government buy. Um, More often than not, companies need help in strategy. So, and when I say strategy, I mean reverse engineering the process. And I'm really big on this. If any of you have watched some of our material, it is that the government, when they spend money, all that money is recorded and you can look at how the government's spending. And there's actually a lot of criteria that we can look at. So if a company wants to sell to the government, we can go and we can see how the government spends money in that area. We can see who's buying, what they sell, how they're doing it, how much they're spending. That gives us a lot of information we can use to basically reverse engineer a plan. And I see you guys saying you can hear me. Great. Reverse engineer that plan so we're not guessing when we try to sell to the government. We know who we should be focused on selling to. Do we need a GSA schedule? Do we want to go get a certification? Is it even going to matter? Here, those are just a couple of the questions you can answer. Some other areas that companies hire consultants for is proposal writing. They hire consultants to lead generate for them, to manage a pipeline of leads. They hire consultants to help them get a GSA schedule. They help them to go through certification processes. There's really, I don't want to say there's no limit to where you can really develop a niche in this area, but there are a lot of areas. And then there's, well, what happens when a company's on contract? That produces a whole list of new problems that need to be solved, where as a consultant, you can engage with them. And then one of the big differences too is when a company is on contract with the government, that's when they have a lot of funding coming in and they need to solve problems fast. And they can pay for it. The funding's there, right? So, and they don't screw around. So it could be something with cybersecurity. It could be, we've had one where hey, good morning. When you're on contract with the government, so these are some real examples of companies I've worked with. I had one company that had a termination for convenience, meaning they were on contract with the government. This was a young woman owned small business, and she had done a lot of work in preparation for this contract. She won the contract. She traveled from, I believe it was Hawaii, to the States a few times. She hired a bunch of people to do this job. And on the day of the job, the government came out and said, hey, we're terminating the contract. The government could do that, termination for convenience. But she thought she was out all the money she spent already on this, and she wanted to pay the crew that was out there. She's not out the money, because even if the government terminates, there are laws in place say they have to recompensate you for anything that you've put in. So we were able to get most of that contract value for her. That's just an example, but there are a lot of different things that you can focus on as a consultant. Hey, John, how's it going? Good. And as I go through, guys, if you have, again, any questions about how you might consult in this space or how you could sell to the government, any of that stuff, just put it in the text. We'll keep on reading through that. Now, what I thought I'd do is we have, some of you may or may not be aware, and I'll put the link in here. We have a certification program. I was just going to go through some of the course curriculum here just to kind of illustrate some of the different areas that you could potentially focus on as I bring that up. Some of the other things that are nice about consulting in this space versus, say, having a government contracting business where you're selling to the government is when you're selling to the government, those timelines are very long. The sales process is extremely long. If you're consulting, if you've developed a specialty, let's say you've written grants and you know how to write grants that win, right? Well, if you're finding companies or institutions that need a proposal writer, a grant writer, that's something, first of all, you can land that client very quickly compared to the government. And you're invoicing that client directly. You can get paid a lot faster. So you could, if you're really aggressive, you could go out, find clients and start getting paid within a week. Usually it takes a little bit longer than that versus 12 months for the government, 6 months, 18 months, depending on what the deal is. So consulting in this space, it can be very lucrative. It's a lot faster, and companies selling to the government typically have a lot of revenue coming in, and you're helping them land big contracts, which make it very high dollar, high end profession to be in, company to run. So if you develop a skill set there and you can drive results, you can develop a lot of wealth for your family. All right. Let's see here. Let's see, looking at some of the questions. First time on one of these, this is Luke. I think I'm pronouncing that right. What are the limitations on being able to do this? For example, living internationally currently. Well, as far as limitations are concerned, I don't want to say there's no limitations, but for instance, one of the students I trained, Ross, I work with him on another client, and we've been doing so for months. He lives in Germany. He lives in the Garmisch area. So, I mean, if you look out his window, he's like in the mountains of Germany. It's great. So one of the nice things about consulting in this space, I mean, I work out of my home office 90% of the time. No, I also do, Luke, I do a lot of traveling. So if you get into a position where you're selling for a client, which I do, then you may have to travel. And I mean, like relationships win contracts. I'm pretty upfront about that. If we're talking about strategy and selling to the government, when you develop a relationship with someone, when you go to their office and meet with them, go out to lunch with them, that type of thing, this is where you're building trust and confidence. And that can really assist you, in the long run when you're trying to sell to the government. So outside of travel, Luke, I would say you could live just about anywhere. Your limitations are going to be. I want to take a quick second to talk to anybody watching this that's interested in starting a government contracting business or starting a new profession in government contracting. The students that graduate our program, they go on to start their own consulting firms, winning high dollar consulting clients. They go on to land high paying salaried positions as account executives with companies that sell to the government. I'm so proud of the people that have gone through our program. And if you are considering either a job or a business, and by the way, some of our students are doing both, as I did. They're running a consulting business and they'll have an account executive job. It's transforming their lives. It's bringing true wealth to them and their families. Back to the video. If you're going to be remote, you got to have Wi-Fi and you got to be able to make phone calls and send emails. So hopefully that answers your question. Let me know, hey, Dennis, how do you transition into the space without contracting experience after completing your course? Thank you. Yeah. And I'm sure there's probably other courses out there that are viable. I think you can get a degree in this. I want to say I looked into it a couple of years ago. You just be careful, right? You make sure that, look through the course material, look through the curriculum, make sure it's viable. And what I recommend in our course, so our course is basically divided into two segments. It's not even a course, it's a certification program. So I work very directly with the students. So there's a lot of training, whether it's videos, assignments they have to do, analytics, they have to analyze federal data. They have to build something called a roadmap, which I review. So they have to look at different industries and figure out how the government sells. And they have to do that until it's correct. And there's a lot more, building pipeline, but advanced sales techniques. But then the last part of it is, well, how do you start a business, right? So you have to learn part of the government contracting process. And you also have to be able to, if you want to be a consultant, you need an LLC and you need to be able to run your own business. And that requires lead generating. There's a way of bringing deals in. There's a way of landing clients and pricing. So we go through all of that proposals in there. My recommendation though is learn part of it, right? So Dennis, you want to, it can be overwhelming if you don't have to have a contracting past, the students in our course certainly don't, but they learn a piece of it, right? So you might get really, really good at something like federal spending analytics, right? Looking at data, or that may just frustrate the living crap out of you and you want nothing to do with it. And you may focus more on proposal writing or SBIR, which is it's not technically, technically they're contracts, but it's the government investing in small businesses with cool, innovative technological solutions. Other transaction authority, there's a lot of different specialties within specialties here. So the key is find something that you like, find something that you can just deep dive on and get a little bit of experience in. Go through the drills, work with some businesses. You might work, the first few clients may not be like clients paying you $300,000 a year, but it doesn't take you long to really develop a specialization in one area because so few people have it, right? So most people know nothing about this space. So again, going through a program like mine or somebody else, you're probably going to be ahead of 99% of the people out there. Certainly those that have never done it before. Hopefully that answers your question, Dennis. Yep, no problem. Okay, Charles, starting with no experience, what are some things that you could go back and change or wish you knew? What type of contract should someone with no experience look to get into? Are you talking about contracts with the government, meaning selling to the government, Charles, or are you talking about if I was going to start a consulting business in this space and I had to change some things or things I wish I knew, what would I know? But let's start with the first part. Selling to the government, I have some very specific thoughts on what works and when it's a good time to start. First of all, I believe in almost all situations, you want to have an existing business and you want to start selling commercially, either to other businesses or commercially first. And so whether it's a service or a product that you're selling, I think the first place is start a business and get it going commercially first, because that is going to be much faster revenue in most cases. And you want to make sure that you have a solid offering and you want to make sure you have revenue coming in because it takes a long time to sell to the government. So that's what I'd say. If your goal is sell to the government, first start a business and sell commercially. And then after a little bit of time, get into it and just understand selling to the government is going to take some time. But having a very focused niche. A lot of companies make the mistake of trying to sell everything under the sun, and that is going to wear you out and get you nowhere fast. You want a very specific niche. So and I use this example all the time. If you're an accountant, I'd say focus on something like bookkeeping, right? Now you're very focused within accounting. I'm the best company at selling bookkeeping services. Start small, build up from there. So get really, really great at something, super focused, and then you can start expanding after. Let us see here. Yeah, contracts with the government. Yeah, so that's the thing. So if you want to sell to the government, Charles, that's what I would do. Be super focused, develop that niche, sell it commercially, and sell it to the government. You'll have two streams of revenue coming in eventually. It's a great way to build a robust business. And also, last thing, Del Rey, how do I get your course? So it's programmed. So this is something that it'll take you a few months to get through. It's pretty rigorous. But our students do come through as certified GovClose advisors. They learn how to find leads, start working with companies. In fact, a lot of the students in the course right now, they're finding leads and doing work before they even graduate. So that's what's really great about it. And I work with a lot of them too afterwards, and I know I've trained them, so I know they can do the work. Here, what you do, I'm going to put it back in here, govclose.com. When you go to govclose.com, there's two boxes there. One says, I have a business. One says, I want to start a business. You basically it's clicking on the I want to start a business box. That's going to take you to the consulting page. We have a video that you can watch, kind of walks you through what the program entails, which is essentially on-demand training weekly coaching with me. So that's group coaching. There is an option to go one-on-one. It's a little bit more expensive, but essentially we take you through all of the training. Once you complete all of the modules, you have deliverables, you build a roadmap, you build a pipeline of leads. I'm going to review everything personally. I onboard all the students personally, and I also certify them personally. So when they are done, they get our certification, they get a recommendation from me on LinkedIn, they get a letter of reference from me, and they're prepared and usually already in the process of working with clients and building their business out. As far as, hopefully that helps. I'll put a more specific link in there too when I go in, so I don't confuse anyone with that GovClose link that I just put in there. But it's, I want to start a new business is really what you're clicking on. Here, I'll put this one in. This one's a little bit better, more direct. All right, let's see, where are we here? How do I get your course? Handle that. Let's see, teach HIMS. Rick, does your program assist students with identifying their strengths, niche? Yeah, it does. And, it's interesting to me how different people gravitate towards different things, right? So, I've said on videos before how much I don't like writing proposals, for instance, right? And by the way, a necessary part of selling to the government. We all know it. I've written lots of them. I've reviewed probably more, but it takes a lot of work, right? So for me, there's some things I like doing more than writing proposals, right? But some students of mine just love it. They love digging into it and putting that really good product together. And actually, it's a really good niche because right now, a lot of people are using AI tools to write proposals. And I want to be clear, when we're talking about big contracts for services, technology, total solutions, you're not playing the numbers game there. We're finding leads early before the solicitation. We're working them. We're influencing them. We're learning everything we can about the solution the government wants. And then we're writing a proposal when the solicitation comes out, like a really solid proposal that really is addressing the needs. And there's another video out there we put out where retired Colonel Louis Orndorff, he is a master contracting officer. He was a 3-time commander in the Air Force. He did a phenomenal video for our program on how to write proposals for the government and the things that a contracting officer is looking for. But that's just an example. So the real answer is yes, we expose you to different things within the program. So, whether you're in the program or not, I'm just going to kind of read through what some of the courses are here. So we get into the basics. We talk about set-asides. We talk about registering your business, building capability statements. That's something some people do. They'll just build capability statements for companies, right? Because a company selling to the government, I always say you want to have 2 or 3 of these CAPE statements that are super focused, because a capability statement, if you don't know, it's like a 1-page marketing document. It's not something that's going to win the deal for you, but it's an industry standard. So let's say I go back in time 5 years, and I am 5 years. It's gone by since I retired, a little less than that. So yeah, 5 years. I'm sitting in a program office. I'm a program manager, and I'm managing a few efforts. I'm going to have companies coming to me that know what they're doing, and they want to meet with me, understand requirements, but they're going to bring me that 1-page marketing document. Sometimes they'll email it, but that marketing document should be very specific to the opportunity that they're trying to win. So if we go back to the accounting example, they might have one capability statement that says bookkeeping is their primary thing. They're the best at it. They might have another one for tax preparation services. And depending on who they're meeting, they might swap that out. So marketing is another thing. Government contracting, public sector, marketing is a career field within the public sector. Its own skill set. There are a lot of differentiators. And we go over a lot of these different things in the course and expose the students to them at a broad level with our advanced techniques. But we get into niche development, how to develop a niche. We get into, building a roadmap, targeting who in the government's buying, sales strategies. How does the government buy whatever it is you're selling? And each of these could be its own niche in and of itself. Subcontracting, acquisitions forecasts, 8A sole sourcing. So if you're an 8A company, how does the government sole source? You could be an expert in sole sourcing. But again, find one topic you're interested in after you do some review. And I think you're really going to do well there. You can really become the expert in one niche area. All right, let's see. Philip, what are the prereqs for the course? Do we need to have already created an LLC, have a DUNS number? Will you walk us through how to literally start your own business? As far as the LLC piece, what I do show you how to do is register in sam.gov. Now, you don't have to have an LLC to go through our program. Some people that go through our program, their intention isn't necessarily to start a consulting business. For some of them, it's just, I want to learn what the skills I need and build a little bit of credibility so I can go after one of these account executive jobs in the public sector, which are very lucrative. Public sector sales jobs, when you think of, so for everyone on this, if you think of the highest paid sales jobs, what do you guys think of? Throw in the chat if you want to. I know for me, before I got into this, I was thinking like medical sales, pharmaceutical sales, maybe something like software sales. I wasn't really sure, but now that I'm in the public sector and see what people are doing, this is incredibly lucrative because one, companies are going to pay companies that are in government contracting and selling to the government. They have a lot of revenue coming in, and there are very few people that understand this process. So first, they drive pretty high salaries. Second thing is a lot of these jobs also come with commissions. So if you're bringing in, I literally know people with yachts that are just selling for the government, right? But the big picture is it's a revenue generator. Can build wealth. Not, by the way, this is not a get rich quick anything. There's nothing quick about this. And our course isn't quick either. So if you're looking at that certification program, it's going to take you a couple months to get through that and to get certified. But it is without a doubt, if you master the material, a wealth builder, and it is going to give you a unique skill set that you can use for the rest of your life, at least the rest of your working life. You can also bore your spouse to tears as, I think mine just walks out of the room if I start talking government contracting. All right. Yeah. As far as other prereqs, look, really what we're looking for is, I don't want to blanket, I want to make a blanket statement that makes people think they're going to be disqualified from getting into the certification program, except saying that, we want to make sure that we have graduated professionals at the end of the program that can go out there and either start their own business or get into, apply for jobs and get hired with some of these companies selling to the government in whatever your specialty is. So, there's some criteria that I'm looking for. And what makes a good salesperson may not be the same thing as what makes a good marketing person. In fact, probably isn't, right? May not be the same thing that makes a good proposal writer. So depending on what niche you're going to end up in, there are different skill sets that can make you really great at any of those things. You don't have to have an LLC. You can start the LLC afterwards, or you don't need an LLC. That's not a prereq at all. We do say if you are going to consult, I tell our students, if you're going to start an LLC, we do ask that they go and register in sam.gov. They can do that during the course or after, but we want them to do that so they at least understand what the people that they're helping have to go through when they register, right? It just gives you a little bit more understanding. So, oh, Roy. Listening Phoenix, Arizona. Awesome, Christian. Get a chance to jump on a call with your guy, Hal. Yeah, no, Hal's awesome. You'll love talking to him. Good dude. Hal's he's actually running my sales team. He's retired Air Force, just had a baby. Awesome dude. He'll point you in the right direction. Can I touch on subcontracting? Yeah, absolutely. So subcontracting in government contracting, in the government contracting world, first of all, everything's regulated by the federal acquisitions regulations. And I don't want to bore you to tears, so I'm not going to go too far into that, except to say that all the federal agencies have to abide by the FAR, or the Federal Acquisitions Regulations, when they're buying anything. Now, what we're typically going to have is a prime contractor on a government contract. And what I mean by that is, let's say, if you're familiar with sam.gov, let's say that a solicitation comes out on sam.gov and you have a company. Let's say I have a company. And I do. So I have a company I see a solicitation on sam.gov where they want to, hire construction services to do roofing or something. And I put a solicitation in on that and I win. Okay. If I win that contract, now I have a contract with the government. I'm a prime contractor. I hold the contract, but I may need to hire, waste removal services to get rid of all of the stuff that I rip off the building when I replace that roof. They would be a subcontractor to me. Okay. So I just want to, they do not hold a contract with the government. They're a subcontractor. Now, some variations on that. So a subcontractor in this space is going to be somebody that is subcontracting to a prime contractor. So somebody that owns a contract with the government. Now, sometimes the government requires a prime to have subcontractors. Okay. And sometimes they have requirements for set asides for subcontractors as well as primes. Hopefully I'm not confusing you guys, but so at least to say that sometimes the government will have some type of requirement, depending on the solicitation, for a prime contractor to use subcontractors. Subcontracting is a strategy in and of itself with selling to the government. And yes, you absolutely could be a niche. A lot of people specialize in it. I think what you'll find is if you're focused on the government contract sales process, you're going to have to be familiar with it, because even the big companies, the big defense contractors, you'll see that sometimes they're subcontractors, right? It's a lot of this is niche dependent. So when I'm working with a client and I want to help them sell to the government, I need to see what they're selling. And that's going to help decide whether or not they're going to be a sub or a prime. I can give you an example of one of our past clients. So Lisa Love, we did an interview with her. You could see the interview on YouTube. I think it's in our podcast as well, the DoD Contract Academy podcast. But now Lisa exclusively does subcontracts, at least up until the interview I had with her and when I was helping her and her team. And they were doing exceedingly well selling cybersecurity services as a sub. Now, basically what you're looking for is if, let's just say you're providing a service. If you're providing a service, but the solicitations that come out, the contracts that have been published, if that service is not the primary thing that the government's looking for, meaning maybe there are 10 other things on the contract, well, then that may drive a subcontracting approach. Meaning if I'm not going to see solicitations for, I'll go back to accounting, right? So if I'm doing bookkeeping, but I'm not seeing bookkeeping solicitations out there, I'm just seeing solicitations for, maybe tax preparation services. But part of those tax preparation services, maybe there's one requirement in there for bookkeeping, and the government's still spending a ton of money on it, but we're just not seeing them as prime contracts. We're seeing them as part of larger contracts. That would probably dictate a subcontracting approach. Let's see. Philip, real estate, not a big fan. Not a big fan of real estate in the government contracting space. Not a ton of spending. Residential real estate, not much at all. My wife's a real estate agent, and so I've looked pretty heavily into it. There's more commercial real estate. There's a lot of leasing. So if you are interested in real estate, you're looking at leasing primarily. Leasing probably office buildings, things like that. It's been a while since I've looked at those numbers, so possible it's changed, but yeah, I don't know, Philip. I think if you're in real estate, I recommend. I think it's a much better niche to be in the consulting end of government contracting, and it's something that we could certainly teach you. Now, let's see here. Are account executives making more than high-end real estate agents? Some of them are, but look, some high-end real estate agents, Philip, that question. I mean, some high-end real estate agents are doing millions a year, right? Some high-end public sector sales executives with commissions are doing millions a year, but and I would imagine just like real estate agents, it depends, right? So what I've seen is you'd see high-end salaries for a sales executive, and plus if they have a position that where they're getting commissions, they're going to have good years and bad years, right? These big contracts, when you're looking at millions of dollars in commissions, those are not contracts you're going to find in a couple of months. That's usually something that somebody's worked on for a couple of years sometimes, right? So depending on who they are, I'm sure there's differentiators there, but they'll probably have like really good years and some years that are so-so. As you know, real estate can work the same way. And of course, difference though is typically a real estate agent's not getting a salary, right? And there's millions of real estate agents, millions and millions of real estate agents. I think it's one of the worst jobs to get into because you have a limited number of houses to sell and you have millions of the bar to entry for real estate is so low that you get like some really qualified high-end agents and you get some that are just the bottom of the barrel and you never know who you're competing with. It's a nights and weekends industry. You're lead generating during the day and you're showing houses at night and on the weekends. I mean, I know this from, watching my wife, first experience helping her, versus something like public sector, right? I ran into this as soon as I retired because I'm like, look, this is Monday through Friday. No one's crying over, if there's a $2 million contract that gets delayed in the government, everyone's still going home at 5 on Friday afternoon, right? No one, for the most part, no one's versus my wife, $1,000 here or there on a buyer wants a cheaper house, seller wants more money. And I mean, that argument could go on over a couple of $1,000 nights and weekends. That seems really frustrating to me, but more power to you if you want to do it. Let's see. Larry Page, Vail, Colorado. Good morning. Can you address how to work with a firm that wants to bid on construction, roofing projects, issues? Bond will often limit their ability. What would you advise? Well, if you're working with a firm that wants to bid on construction, the first thing, and we go over this in our course, first thing is we as consultants, as advisors, we never work for commission only. Okay, so that's the first thing. You are never going to work with a company commission only. Why? One thing is I think it's bad business, but the other thing is we're now in the government contracting space, we're dealing with the FAR. And so if you look up FAR, Federal Acquisitions Regulations clauses on commissions, you're going to start seeing some interesting things. And the intent isn't to talk about this, and I don't want to be off the cuff because I think the best thing always to do is to have a lawyer take a look at the FAR and see what's allowed. I can't tell you this. Historically, my understanding is commissions were illegal at one point within government contracting. And then, and the reason they were, and the reason we even have the FAR is to prevent the government from doing anything illicit, right? Because we hear about stories now and then of a general officer, in bed with one of the big defense contractors and doing something illegal, using illegal influence, padding his own pockets, making sure a deal goes one way. I mean, we have incidents of that going all the way back to George Washington, and that's the truth. We have letters from George Washington talking about his how frustrated he is with both government and with companies, right? With companies either not delivering or doing something illicit to get a government contract. So at some point, commissions become illegal because they see that as people potentially using their relationships to be able to close a contract to do something illicit. Eventually, someone gets to the government and says, hey, look, salespeople live on commissions. That's what really drives them. We have to give them a way to do this. So what the clause says now is you can certainly, if you're paying somebody a salary, you can give them a commission on what they win. You can, I believe it says if you're a bona fide consultant, you can pay a commission. There's a lot of gray area. And then one of the lines, it's not in front of me right now. One of the lines talks about, it basically gives you the understanding that as long as you are being paid, you can also include a commission. There's a little gray area in there. I've talked to some contracting officers that think it's okay, but the bottom line is if I'm working with a firm, first thing is they're going to pay me. So if they're not going to pay you, if they're not willing to pay you either a project fee or a monthly fee for whatever it is you're doing for them, then I wouldn't work with them. You can work for them fee plus commission. You can work for a company as a W-2 and get a commission, but you want to make sure you have a contract in place and you want to make sure that you're not just signing an agreement with somebody based on, and you get paid if they win a contract. That's something that's not going to work out well for you. Oh, and by the way, the bond piece, yeah. I mean, if they can't afford to get a bond, I advise that they don't try to sell to the government. I mean, they're going to need a bond. If they're going to need a bond, I should say, if the contract requires them to have one. Andy, I own a tech startup that is a certified SDV/OSB. Oh, congrats. You just got your first subcontract. That's awesome, man. We're building a lot of innovation tech, and it's definitely overwhelming. Trying to figure out the path forward. Okay. What I would tell you is, first of all, have you looked at the SBIR program? I don't know if you have or you haven't. SBIR helps tech companies. They basically invest in tech companies. It's an interesting process. It's getting more competitive, but essentially it's instead of taking like angel investment or investment from, a commercial source where they're going to take part of your company, there's going to be a lot of rigmarole. With the SBIR process, you're bringing that funding in, you own your IP, you own your company, they're looking for dual use technologies. Usually you can modify whatever it is you're selling for government use. It's a great program if you can get your foot in the door there. A lot of companies do. I've worked with a lot of clients that have had great success with SBIR and getting their tech off the ground. One thing that you want to do, Andy, is you want to see the first question is, what problem are you solving? And is that a government problem that needs to be solved? And so if you're on subcontract, you probably have some of that down, I would hope. But the challenge often, if we have something that's truly innovative, is you're not going to see the contracting past performance when you're looking at data. If you said, hey, I have a roofing company, I could go back and I could look at all the roofing contracts. I could tell you exactly what offices to target, exactly how to get in there, exactly how to sell to them. But if you developed a technology that, I don't know, like it's the robots that do the roofing projects for the government, or, I'm just making something up. But basically, if you come up with something, a solution that's never been bought before, well, now we have to come up with creative ways to get into the government. But I usually start with, what problem does it solve? Because even if they haven't bought your solution before, they have bought some other type of service or technology that solves that problem. And so if there's a pot of money out there that solves a problem, it's figuring out how you're going to get in there with your technology. But it starts with the data. It shouldn't be a guessing game. We teach that in the course. You can always, schedule a call with one of my advisors too, and they could do a roadmap for you. Are contract administration and subcontract management good niches for a contractor? That's Marvin. If you mean contract administration for the government, like the government hires GS employees, they hire contractors also to help them with the contracting process. If you're asking me if, as a consultant, is subcontracting a good niche for a consultant, you say contractor there, but I think subcontracting is an awesome space to be in. There are not a lot of people focused there. I think that you can make a lot of money selling to the government as a subcontractor. I think you can make a lot of money as a consultant running your own business, helping other companies with subcontracting. Some of the things that, and I'm not sure if that's really what you're asking me, but some of the things that you can do there are, hey, what is the process for truly subcontracting with the government? How do I find that opportunity? How do I develop a teaming relationship with a prime? Because there are really great ways to do that. We want to make sure we're using best practices and we're not wasting anybody's time. And then how do we take that all the way to closed deal? Managing a subcontracting pipeline for a company, finding the leads, setting up the teaming agreements. I mean, there's a lot of different things you could be doing there. Do the sub have to be registered with SAM? It depends. This is, I think I pronounce this Marquis. It's either Mark or Marquis Smith. If the sub is going to be named in the proposal, meaning I, the prime, my company's writing a proposal for a government solicitation, and then I see Marquis' company, and he's going to be a subcontractor to me. If I name you in that contract, I would want you to be registered in sam.gov, especially if you have some type of certification or set aside. I think the real answer to this is no, you don't have to be, because you're not the one putting the proposal together. I think it's a good idea to be, but it's probably not a requirement.
After going through the course, I was able to land a client that pays me a monthly retainer to actually help them develop their business and go after these federal contracts.
I was able to get a consulting gig with a software company that currently works with the intelligence community.
Within 2 months, I have my first client. So the initial contract was for a 3-month contract for $4,000 a month.
So 27 years old, you've never worked in government contracting, you've never worked as a consultant, and you just closed your first deal. Is that correct?
That's fair. And I've got a couple small projects on the side as well. So definitely something, probably my best investment I've made all year.
A cold call landed a 9-figure government contract.
Start a consulting business and a high salaried position as a account executive in public sales. So you're doing both of those things.
I'm living the best of both worlds right now.
So my name is Mike Knickerbocker. I am a naval officer that's getting ready to retire. Right now, I have 3 firm clients and 2 more perspectives. I'm able to provide value across different industries because the skill set that I learned through the course, I was able to apply my own experience.
GovClose came and it was a no-brainer. I wanted some secret sauce.
This has allowed me to live in Germany. It's a little hazy today, but we can do that. You see?
Oh yeah, dude, that's beautiful.
The content, the training, it's invaluable. It's written.
And Deb, what motivated you to join the GovClose certification program?
Wow. Well, I think that wanting to work with a leader in the field, someone who understands government contracting on a deep basis and has the reputation, the experience working with you and your company was a natural.
The students that graduate our program, they go on to start their own consulting firms, winning high dollar consulting clients. They go on to land high paying salaried positions as account executives with companies that sell to the government. I'm so proud of the people that have gone through our program. And if you are considering either a job or a business, and by the way, some of our students are doing both, as I did. They're running a consulting business and they'll have an account executive job. It's transforming their lives. It's bringing true wealth to them and their families. Back to the video. Unless the government requires that you're using subcontractors that maybe have a special certification or something, then you would probably need it. You would need it. Okay, Andy. Wondering if there was a particular type of consultant or business developer expertise I should be seeking to add to my team to help with building a pipeline of contacts. Yes. So if you have a business and you have a sales team or you're hiring people and you're specifically looking at selling to the government, I would be looking at bringing on people that have sold to the government before. It's completely different, as you probably know, from selling B2B or B2C. Like, look, there's some commonalities. Like being a good salesperson is going to be a huge plus if you're selling to the government. But there's a whole process that you need to understand, like knowing that you're not going to get on the phone with a decision maker and close a deal on the phone. See, like that's not going to happen, right? You might get a person that's in the decision making process, but there's a lot of people that could say no, and there isn't a single person that can just say yes and make it happen. Usually, right? Yeah, I would look for expertise. I would look either for somebody that's done it before, or at least somebody that's been trained on it. If you have good salespeople, Andy, you can train them. Okay, you can have them take training, learn the process, and it's probably going to be the cheapest way for you to move forward. Versus you could spend a couple $100,000 a year on a seasoned business developer, sales executive, and they could probably jump in and hit the ground running. Larry, you have a very specific question about American native companies and a DFARS clause. I'm not prepared to answer on American Indian Incentive Program or that DFARS clause without researching it. But I can tell you as a general rule that I don't target the contracting officer. So for you guys, a contracting officer, this is not my analogy. I stole this from somebody else in the podcasting world, but someone said, and I thought it was really good, that the contracting officer is kind of like the priest at a wedding or the judge. And what they mean by that is, in the acquisitions career force, right? You have, I would say you have a couple primary positions. You have contracting officer and you have program manager. The contracting officer has legal authority to put you on contract, just like a priest or a judge or a rabbi, in this country would have, somebody that has the legal authority that did whatever the legal paperwork is to be able to marry two people, right? So they have the legal authority to put a company on contract. But just like the judge or the rabbi or the priest of the wedding, they're not typically the ones that are going to choose who the bride and groom are going to be, right? So I look at the program manager, or I should say from this analogy, the program manager is the bride in this situation. So the bride has to pick which groom she's going to marry, right? Now, the program manager, for the government, it has the responsibility of knowing what the government's requirement is. Let's just take something that I've done in the past for like cybersecurity, insider threat. Hey, we want to protect data at rest, right? All right, well, if the government wants to protect data at rest, well, how much money do they want to put on this? So you usually are going to have a budget and you're going to have a requirement. You have to have both things. Now that PM has to figure out how they're going to put it on contract, what kind of company they're going to put on contract, how long is this process going to take? Are they asking for the right things? Even though there's a requirement, in my case, I would have a team of engineers that would also be helping me develop those requirements. So the program manager, see, that's who you want to target in the market research phase. This is why I tell people, don't write a proposal on a solicitation unless you found out about that opportunity months ahead of time, if not years, for some projects. So you have, because you're not talking to the PM or anybody else after the solicitation comes out. In very rare circumstances, the government's going to be very hesitant to do that, so there are no protests. But before the solicitation comes out, you're in the market research phase. Now, as a program manager, I'm trying to figure out what goes into the solicitation. I need to make sure that there are companies out there, what technologies exist. I'm looking at the art of the possible to solve an innovative problem set specifically, and I can meet with all those companies and figure that out. So if there's a PM, you want to meet with the PM. If it's the contracting officer, it usually comes in at the end. And yes, they have the legal authority to put you on contract. They're very useful in certain circumstances, situations, but as far as influencing the opportunity, it's not who I'm talking to. I'm usually talking to the PM, engineers, maybe requirements folks. Hopefully that answers your question. How long after getting your certification could you be up and running as a sales consultant? If you're already fully registered business. Christian, like I said, some of my students are already closing deals without even, before they even graduate. Some of them are, I think, God, who was the fastest one that went through? Maybe it was a month to 5 weeks. But a lot of them started scheduling calls before they even graduated. So I think it's, especially if your business is already up and running, then you've got a leg up. You're basically going to learn the sales process. You're going to learn the government contracting process through our courses, start deciding what you want your niche to be. And one of the things that we teach in the course, building the roadmap, this is really essential because the roadmap, this is something that I sell all the time because I think it's the first place every company needs to start. So, if Larry came to me or Andy and said that they had a company that was a cybersecurity business and they protected data at rest, well, now I can go and look at all of the data, see, and if they're a small business, or let's say they're a small, if they were a small woman-owned business, small veteran-owned business, I could go look at all of the data and say, okay, well, the government spends, I'm going to make these numbers up, $10 billion a year on cybersecurity services. $3 billion a year of that goes to small businesses. Within that, for data at rest, the government spends $800 million a year on small businesses on data at rest, like software, right? And then I can go even further. For service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses, they spend $170 million on service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses. Half of that is sole source, and almost all of it is from the VA. And it's from this one particular office in the VA or 3 offices. So you see what I'm doing? I'm going from big to very small. And so once I get that small, now I can tell someone on average, SDGOSB is making $17 million a year selling that service to the government. These are their top 3 offices. This is how you're going to do it. They buy 90% of their purchases through GSA. So that means they need to get a GSA contract. Or GSAs only use 10% of the time. So most of it's going to be sole sourced. And if you're going to sole source something, you need to find these opportunities early. And so we're going to look at these offices. We're going to look at their acquisitions forecasts. We're going to respond to sources. So we're teaching them how to do all that work in the roadmap. So that's basically the first product. We teach you how to build the first product you can sell. And I think it's the most important one. And I routinely sell that from between 4,500 and 9,500 on average, although I've sold it for more than that. And then, so guys, just so we're aware, let's just talk about what my philosophy is on consulting and what I teach the students in this. I'm teaching, after you learn the process, you kind of pick a niche. You're finding clients and you're selling them an initial project. We don't work by the hour. We sell by the project. And those projects, like I said, should be somewhere between 3,500 and 5,500 for that project on average when you're selling it, especially once you're done a few of these, whatever that is, whatever your initial project. It doesn't have to be a roadmap. It could be anything, right? But you're developing an initial project for a client and you're selling that. And when you do that initial project, so for instance, if I put their sales plan together as the initial project, and then I outbrief them a couple weeks after, right? First of all, I'm getting half up front and half when I'm done, so I get paid immediately. But I'm briefing them this sales plan. It's based on data. It's real. I can show them this is what you can expect to make each year because this is what other companies like yours are doing. This is how you're going to do it. This is how much competition there is because we can see that. And I teach the students how to find that. On average, you get 3 proposals coming in per solicitation, which is great. That's not a lot of competition. Or, hey, on average, 45 the solicitations or proposals are coming in. That's a lot of competition. So we got to niche down. These are the niches I find you. But anyway, after I brief that, now I'm telling them, you have 3 options to work with me. I can help you execute this plan. So this is what I'm teaching them to do. We can do it in 3 ways. So now what we're trying to do is we take that initial project, which we get paid for, and then we're turning that into monthly recurring revenue. So when you put together a solid initial project, that client is going to want to work with you and help you. If you're putting a plan together, they're going to want you to help execute that plan. And so now you can develop that. You can have clients paying you 45, 55, 6,500 a month, 2,000 a month, depends on what you're doing, coaching, advising. But how many of those do you need, to make it now worthwhile for you? If you have 5 clients paying you 4,500, 5,500 a month, and you have on top of that a couple of these projects coming in that you're doing, now you have a nice little business for yourself where you're certainly going to be making more than most salary jobs. And you can expand that in different ways, depending on what your niche is, right? If you're doing proposal writing, you can scale, you can build a team, you can just keep it solo with yourself. So that's really the objective of what we're doing. Oh, so Ivan's in the chat, guys. Ivan's one of our students that graduated. He's saying, hey, you can start right away. Had my first consulting call booked before I graduated the course. Yeah, true story. Ivan does work for me now too. Is middleman strategy a good option in the beginning? And is subcontracting a safe path to start? No middleman. Like I get a headache. I want to puke in my mouth when people start bringing up middleman. Let me take a step back and let me tell you where I think middleman. Let me describe middleman to you guys first. There's a lot of videos out there that talk about, hey, you can find a solicitation on sam.gov. And then you can, if it's for cleaning services, then you go find a cleaning company and then you write the proposal and you win and the cleaning company does the work and you get the money, right? That's, in essence, that's what they're trying to say middleman is. Middleman, I'm not going to say that's never going to work because there are certain industries where that can work, usually lower dollar contracts. Sometimes with commodities that could work, but basically what that is a numbers game. And so I think I went over this in the last one too, but you're going to be a proposal writing factory. You're going to have to write 20 to 50 proposals to win one. And you're not going to win cybersecurity. You're not going to win big services contract. These are going to be lower dollar when I say lower dollar, certainly under $500,000 for most of these, probably way less than that. But let's say you write 50 proposals for landscaping contracts and you win one. Even though, first of all, if I was the government, I would never hire a quote unquote middleman. Like, I think you need to have a business. You're going to sell landscaping services, have a landscaping business, sell it commercially. You better be able to deliver landscaping services and then see if you can pick up a couple government contracts. But the middleman is someone that's never done that before and is saying to the government, hey, I'm a middleman. I'm going to hire a landscaping company. And if I'm the program manager and I'm looking at that or the CEO, I'd be saying, no way. Absolutely no way. Where's your experience? Why would I ever hire you? I'll hire a landscape. I'll go out and find a landscaping company myself to hire before I do that. But you can win a contract that way. But here's the thing. How many proposals did you have to write to do it? That's a huge amount of work. You got to find the solicitations. Then you have to find companies that could do the work. And you better have an agreement in place before you write the proposal for the government. Now you write 20 to 50 proposals. That's probably going to take you months, right? Let's say it takes you 3 months. Let's just be generous and you win one. Well, now you're still not getting paid. You need to get that landscaping company to do the work. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, right? If they don't, you got a problem on your hands. And if they do, you got to pay them, right? So now you got to pay that landscaping company, but the government hasn't paid you yet. You have to invoice the government. You see where I'm going with this. You're signing up for a big headache, and that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is have a business that is already selling commercially first, and then approach the government. If you don't have a business and you're interested in government contracting, learn a piece of it like I'm recommending, and you can start your own consulting business. Now you don't have to deal with that. Now you're selling directly to companies. If you're getting paid upfront, that's great, usually upfront. And when you're done, a combination of the two. Hopefully I didn't go too far on my tirade. Here's one place where middleman is, I shouldn't even call it middleman, reseller of products, right? Now, this is something, the government wants to buy $200,000 in toilet paper. Well, for commodities, I call these commodities, but for products, right? This is a place where you're going to have to write a lot of proposals, and it's usually lowest price technically acceptable, meaning the lowest dollar amount is going to win. If you want to be involved with that game, that's fine. It's not something that I teach. I think you can make a lot more money in other places. But look, maybe you are the toilet paper king of Chicago and you want to sell it to the government. Do it. I mean, absolutely. Just get somebody that can write a lot of proposals. You're going to be in the proposal writing game. By the way, Kay Garcha, subcontracting, I think, is a much better path to start off with than middleman. All right, I'm done on my middleman thing. You must have past performance in order to succeed as a prime contractor. Yeah, I mean, subcontracting can give you some of that past performance, but if you don't have if you have commercial past performance, at least you have commercial past performance, right? So it's hard enough to win your first contract as a prime. You got to, and you're right, like you got to start somewhere. There's no question about it. Past performance means something to the government. But at a minimum, I want to be able to say, hey, look, this will be my first prime contract. But if you can say to the government, but I'm a subcontractor to this company who did 3 Air Force contracts, or, hey, I've never done subcontracting or priming, but I've been in the commercial space for the past 3 years, and I've worked with Microsoft and Palantir, or I've worked with the Brookfield Zoo. I mean, whatever it is, but you want to be able to point to somebody that you've served and provided your services to. But you're right, difficult to win your first prime contract. By the way, guys, once you win your first prime contract, this is another area of expertise, upselling existing government clients. The fastest and best way to sell to the government, without question. Let's see here. Marky Smith. If I'm the prime, if I'm subcontracting it out, with all the certifications have to be registered in SAM. Depends. It depends on the solicitation. Is it set aside for like an SDV OSB? So here's what you're going to run into. If you see a solicitation and it's set aside, and let's say you're an SDV OSB and you win the contract, you got to read that really thoroughly, because a lot of times there will be a requirement that 51% of the work gets done by that set aside or by a small business, right? So if you're an SDV OSB and you want to just give all the work to somebody else, but there's an SDV OSB requirement in there, you better make sure they're SDV OSB. And by the way, there's a lot of times there's a requirement for the prime to do a percentage of the work. That percentage can change depending on the contract, but you got to be careful of that. Yeah. So let's see here. Maheshwar. Hi, Rick. Could you please guide me on who, the titles of the people, will be evaluating the proposal from agency after the proposal submission? This is a really good question. And by the way, I wish I had the link that I could just plug in the chat right now. Go look for proposal writing in my YouTube channel. Find the recent interview I did with Colonel Orndorff. I think the thumbnail has like me on there with my head exploding or something. But this is interesting, guys. Anyone that's written a proposal or that's going to, when the government gets a proposal, very often it's not one person or even the contracting officer reading this thing from top to bottom. Often what's happening is he or she is taking pieces of that proposal that you wrote and giving it to different people to review, right? So for instance, I had an entire engineering team. I might be giving different pieces of this proposal to different engineers, right? I, as a program manager, might get one. Now, once that comes in, the contracting officer is taking over this review, but I still could be involved very easily with this process. So you might have program managers, you might have engineers, you might have other contracting officers, you might have finance people reviewing this. So there's a lot of different titles of people that are going to be reviewing this. But one point I want to make is, let's say you have a great executive summary at the beginning that says why your company should be hired. This is our past performance. We, blah, blah, blah. We meet all the requirements. And then maybe your summary at the end says something really good too. You put a lot of work into it. Well, what Colonel Orndorff is talking about in the video is he would take pieces, the requirements. Let's say there are 10 requirements on the proposal that you have to hit on the solicitation. He takes your proposal, he takes the 10 requirements in there, cuts them up and sends them to different people to review. Now, if you are not writing in for each requirement, we meet or exceed this requirement and this is how. Right. Very important, right? And it's a way you could get downgraded, right? Maybe you thought you handled that in the executive summary, but you didn't realize that the person that read the executive summary isn't going to read through the technical requirements. So you got to be careful there. So just a tip, watch that video. But yeah, program managers, engineers, contracting officers, finance officers, the list goes on. It could be a lot of different. Oh, by the way, it could be operators too. It could be people with the expertise within the career field. They might be in the acquisition shop. As long as I address the information in the solicitation, does the government require a specific template for construction bids? As long as I address the information in the solicitation, you need to be very careful, Lisa. That's Lisa Dean. The solicitation is not a place to get artistic. So meaning if an RFP comes out or an RFQ, you want to use, because a lot of times they will be specific down to what type of font they want you to use, how many pages. I don't want to say that there's a specific template for construction or anything else, because they could change it. You've got to be very careful to read each solicitation and put it in the format that they ask for. Because they could use it, like if you use the wrong font, they could use that either to downgrade you or disqualify you. If they say no more than 12 pages and you give them a 20-page proposal, they would at best have to delete the last 8 pages and not read them for the evaluation. Or they could just use it, I was going to swear, but to throw your proposal in the trash can. So I would say be very careful. I treat every solicitation, this is the way I do it. I treat every solicitation as a one-off, and I want to make sure that I am reading that thoroughly and hitting everything that they require in there. Sources sought, on the other hand, RFIs, you could be much more artistic in the way that you approach those. There is a room for a small amount of creativity in a proposal. It is an art form, and you will see some similarities, especially with RFQs for products. And that's going back to, like, if you're going to be a proposal writing factory, that's some people are going that way. It's just not what I do. Let's see here. I just missed a lot. I just got off the Teams call. Well, hey, Christian, this is recorded, so you should be able to watch this from beginning to end. Pedro, hey, buddy. Best get hired or become a business developer for companies under agreement and represent them to the U.S. government. Yeah, it's a great niche. Those companies are already getting paid, and then you would get paid a lot faster. And by the way, I don't want to sound like I'm against you having a business that sells to the government. I love the business of selling to the government. That's what my whole thing is, putting companies on contract for the government when I was doing it and helping companies do that now. If you've got a company, I'm absolutely positive on you selling to the government. If you have a great solution, great services, sell to the government, give it to the government. Just know that the process can be a long one. It can be extremely lucrative and extremely rewarding, but it takes commitment and a little bit of know-how. If I have any negativity, it's just if you don't have a business, right? That's why we started the certification program, because as our YouTube channel got more popular, I started getting more people coming to me talking about Middleman, which I hadn't even heard the term. And I've been in government contracting for a long time, right? So this term over the past couple of years has started emerging. But I had people coming to me with that were frustrated, that couldn't make it work for good reason. And also like veterans, people retiring, people that just wanted to start a career doing something. I had these type of people. So we started the certification for people that don't have a business or are looking to transition into something. That's where I'm saying, hey, learn a piece of this, start consulting, start an LLC. Even if you go work for another company at some point, having that LLC and the ability to generate income at will, for your family is huge, right? Hey, maybe your kid's tuition bills in. I'll do a consulting project for $4,500, $5,500, and you can make that happen. I mean, that's the type of thing that you can bring in, and that's how you build wealth. You can pay some stuff off and really do cool stuff. So, all right, Christian. After speaking to Hal, I definitely don't want to be a middleman. Good, thank you. Hal's doing his job, Christian. I would rather be a sales consultant for other companies who are looking to gain contracts. Good. I think that's the right way. Let's see. Lakshman. Is there any chance to read proposals of the companies who would have won the awards? Well, you're gonna have to ask those companies. That's the problem with that, right? You mean the proposals for federal agencies? Do you mean, so the federal agency puts out a solicitation, which is usually called a request for proposal or a request for quote. And then a company writes a proposal against that solicitation. And that proposal, I think, is what you actually want to read. There are some people that will sell them to you, but it's going to be pretty hard for you to get your hands on those. My best advice is to find somebody that has a lot of experience writing proposals and have them help you with your first couple. And then you can start building a bench of proposals. And then you'll win and you'll lose. And one important thing for everyone before we drop off, because we just we're over time here. Biggest thing is that you can always ask a contracting officer if you've lost a solicitation after you put a proposal in, ask them how you could have improved your proposal, and they'll tell you. That's a great way to improve. How do I sell my consulting service? Sell it with class. And I sell a lot of it. No, Nikki, I sell it in a lot of different ways. So I have recommendations in our certification program. I tell them where to start, because there are some places where you can hang your hat. There are some services online where you can hang your hat and advertise yourself. I sell a lot through LinkedIn. Okay, Nikki. So if you have a specialty, you can reach out to a company on LinkedIn that is in the niche area for whatever it is that you have a background in. Let's say you come, because a lot of people come to our course with a background in, some come from real estate, some come from the medical field, some come from firearms, some are in the military, some or teachers, right? So whatever it is, the government buys all that stuff. So you find companies that are similar to where your background is. Cybersecurity. And then if it was cybersecurity, Nikki, I would probably start reaching out to different cybersecurity companies on LinkedIn. And it's just, hey, I specialize in helping woman-owned small businesses that are cybersecurity companies sell to U.S. Army, U.S. government. That's a good place to start. Or maybe you write proposals, right? So now you're targeting companies that are already selling to the government, and you're letting them know that you write proposals. There's a lot of ways to do that. That could be a 2-hour live stream right there. Contractors, apprenticeships. So when you work with a client, you charge them on the back end or up front. I always charge them up front. Hold on, let me take a step back. I usually have a down payment and a when I'm complete payment, but I never do work for somebody without a contract in place and some type of down payment. Every contract's a little bit different, but I never start working without a contract in place and a down payment. Minor. Okay, this is the last one I'm going to answer, guys. Then I got to run. Comment section. I have an established industrial supply company located conveniently at one of the largest military cards in India. Interesting. I would be glad to collaborate with established LLC business in the U.S. Yeah, Minor. There's probably a lot of room for you to work with different companies in the U.S. You don't have to have a U.S. business to sell to the government, by the way. There is room for a non-U.S. company to sell to the government. India is a nation that we do a lot. The United States does a lot of work with. So, yeah, it's really interesting. Let's see, Marvin, Christian, you already covered this. I already said I was going to do the last one. I'm not sure. Sales. Okay, so what a different way you can make money as a sales consultant, and what can you do to start building a personal brand in the SC industry? Do you mean in the sales consulting industry? You can do a lot there, Christian. What are the different ways? Yeah, I mean, you're right. I covered a lot of them, from proposal writing to finding leads to helping people get on GSA contracts to helping companies with certifications. You can help with sole source contracts. You can help troubleshoot existing contracts. You can help companies with their CPARS reviews. You can, literally, when you start digging into this, you're going to see there's so many different avenues you could specialize in. You're going to find a few of them that resonate with you. I guarantee it. All right, guys. Sweet. Well, hey, hopefully this has been valuable to everybody listening today. I know I enjoy coming on and answering your questions. I'm planning on doing this every week. If you got value out of this, I just ask that you subscribe, maybe leave a comment. And then if you'd like a topic for different episodes that we put out there, yeah, just leave those in the comments as well. If you are interested in our course, you can head on over to govclose.com. I'll put it over in the notes here one last time. And basically what that'll do is, regardless of what button you hit, you're going to end up getting directed to give your email address and then potentially schedule a call with one of our guys, probably Hal, but it may be one of our students as well that have graduated from the program and are selling out there to the government now, or someone from my sales team. But you'll get somebody that has a understanding of this, and you'll be able to talk to them, see if it's the right fit for you. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you.